Welcome to Forbidden Planet TV, where today it is my privilege to be joined by author, editor, educator, television host, the one and only JesseJHolland. How are you, mate?
I am doing just fine today. I am so glad to be here with you. It's great to be seen and to be seen with you.
Fantastic, mate. It's always lovely to see you, and thank you so much for joining me. So today we are here to talk about a very special project that is about to be published by my colleagues at Titan Books, and that is the hardback with dust jacket edition of the anthology Black Panther, Tales of Wakanda, edited by Jesse and publishing on March the 9th, 2021. And you can pre-order that book from the links attached to this video. Jesse, what can you tell us about Tales of Wakanda?
Well, I can tell you that the publication of this book is the culmination of a lifelong dream of mine. I've always been into comic books, even from starting like at 5 years old and still to today. And it was such a huge pleasure to be part of the Wakandan universe with my first novel, which was Black Panther, Who is the Black Panther, which was the first novel written about the Black Panther universe.
Great book, by the way, mate. Fantastic book. Loved it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. But I had so much fun doing it that I said, I want to do this again. But not only do I want to do it, I want to bring along some of my friends because I wanted to read all of these different interpretations of Wakanda. I have some great ideas, but I know there are other writers who have great ideas as well. So I went back and said, hey, let's bring in some great writers and see what they can do with the world of Wakanda. So that's where Black Panther Tales of Wakanda comes from. 17 great writers and me we get to tell our own stories about Black Panther, about Shuri, about Killmonger, about the Dora Mahali warriors. You get to read all of these great interpretations of the wonderful characters in the Black Panther's world. Man, what more can you ask for?
No, I mean, you really can't. And it's such an incredible, stellar lineup that you have working with you on this book. Can you take us through that amazing cast list?
Well, of course. Now, first and foremost, we have to mention the fact that for the very first time, you get to read a Black Panther story written by the incomparable Nikki Giovanni. I mean, oh my God, Nikki Giovanni's writing Black Panther. I'm like vibrating, just thinking about the story that she wrote. I mean, she is one of my literary heroes. And I got a chance to not only meet her, but work with her on something she wrote. And it's Black Panther. Oh my God, it was just so exciting. And not only did I get to work with Nikki Giovanni, but I got to work with Tananarive, one of the leading lights in science fiction right now. Not only did I get to work with Nikki Giovanni and Tananarive, I got to work with Cherie Renee Thomas, who is the first African-American editor of the magazine of science fiction and the magazine of fantasy and science fiction. But not only them, I also got to work with one of my comic book heroes, Alex Simmons, one of the first comic book writers I ever met in my life at the Harlem Book Fair way back in 2007. I got to not only talk to him again, I got a Black Panther story out of him. There are so many great writers in here. Temi O,
amazing.
Cadwell Turnbull,
brilliant.
Christopher Chambers, and we have some new writers in here that I know you're going to hear a lot from in the future, like Danny and Jerry, like Glenn Paris. So this book is filled with writers telling their own stories about the Black Panther universe. There are stories of T'Challa in there. You have the stories of the very first Black Panther, Bashanga. You have T'Challa's mom. You have Killmonger. So anything you want to know about the world of Wakanda and what's going on in it, that's why Black Panther Tales of Wakanda is for you.
Yeah, man, I'm a huge Black Panther fan, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait to read it. And I'm amazed and deeply respectful of and very pleased that you managed to put that cast of writers together. It's just incredible work, mate. And I can't wait for the people watching this interview to actually have a copy of the book, which you can order here and enjoy it. So Jesse, when did you personally first encounter Black Panther? When did you first encounter T'Challa? What's your first memory?
Oh my goodness, that was so long ago. So once again, like I said earlier, I've been into comic books since I was very young. And by the way, something I didn't discover until I was an adult was that my father was in comic books, because we'd never talked about that. I started my own comic book collection when I was around 12 or 13, but my dad bought me comic books when I was much younger. And I remember seeing T'Challa the first time in an issue of the Avengers. It was an issue in which their national security liaison, Henry Gyrick, had walked into Avengers Mansion, and Avengers Mansion was left unguarded, and he got tied up by Hawkeye. T'Challa was part of that group of Avengers, and I remember just thinking about how cool that this character is here with no weapons, no armor, no magic hammer. But when he spoke, Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man listened. And from that point forward, I started following the Panther all the way through the works that was done by Don McGregor, Christopher Priest, all the way to today, what's being done by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I have been a huge fan of T'Challa, but I've also been lucky enough to write him. So T'Challa now has permanent living space in my head. Wakanda is like my second home. So I absolutely have followed the Panther through all of his incarnations, and I absolutely love what's being done with the characters, not only in the book, but also on the screen.
Right on. I mean, more on that in a second. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. One of the great things about the Panther, about T'Challa, is he's always been portrayed and treated with such presence and treated with such reverence. And I think that's that back in the 70s, in those early issues, that's really such a powerful thing, I think, looking back. And and my question would be, throughout that long history you have with the character, what does T'Challa and what does the country of Wakanda, what do they represent to you as concepts?
Well, definitely when we talk about writing and thinking about Wakanda, the way I look at Wakanda is that it's the African country that had never been colonized. So it is what, in our minds, Africa would be today without colonization. It's a beacon of education, a beacon of nobility, a beacon of honor, and it's all represented by one man, T'Challa. And I mean, imagine how difficult it must be to not only be responsible for a country as king, but also responsible for the religion of the country, because he is, of course, the chief priest of Bast, the Panther god, but also to represent that country to the world. Everything T'Challa does, he represents his home and his religion. That's a heavy weight to carry, but he does it with such nobility, such honor, such pride. I mean, it represents to all of us what we could be, something to strive for. When we look at the Black Panther, we look at what we want to be. What we want the world to be is Wakanda. So, I mean, it represents that ideal that we aspire to as not only African Americans, but frankly, as human beings.
Yeah, absolutely well said. Now, Jesse, what can you tell me about your story in this collection, which is entitled Faith? Am I right?
Yes. Well, this is one of the stories that I had actually been thinking about for a very long time. Because, as writers, what we do is we write stories that answer the questions we have about these characters. So what Faith is about not only T'Challa, but also Bast. Because we know the history of Wakanda is that Bast, the Panther god, brought the first Black Panther, Bashanga, to Vibranium in Africa and told him that he was responsible for Vibranium and the country that would come up around it. And from that point forth, Bashinga's family has been the royal family of Wakanda. But Bass never actually said how long their stewardship would last. So Faith is about what happens when T'Challa finds out that Bast has her own family, and they show up to take claim of Wakanda. What do you do when your God tells you, oh, by the way, this is my daughter?
Yeah. Oh, fascinating. What a great concept, which I just can't wait to read. But rather than spoil it, I ask you for any more details. I'll ask you another question, something you touched on before. Now, this anthology, edited by yourself, is quite rightly dedicated to the late, great, supremely talented Chadwick Boseman. And can you talk a bit about what you feel about the movie, what you feel about Black Panther on screen, what you feel about Chadwick Boseman's performance in that role?
Right. Well, for a whole generation, the Black Panther will be Chadwick Boseman. Before the Black Panther movies, we all had our different perceptions of who T'Challa would be, what he would look like, how he would move. There's no question of who T'Challa is anymore. T'Challa is Chadwick Boseman, and his death last year really shook all of us.
Yeah, it's true.
So I understand that his portrayal of T'Challa was so groundbreaking that it's going to be hard for any of us to see anybody else in that role. But I'm glad to know that we're moving forward, not only with more Black Panther literature, with the Black Panther comic book, but they're also moving forward with stories of Wakanda on screen. Because the mythos that we saw created by Ryan Coogler and the Black Panther movie is too important to be lost. Even though we can't see Chadwick Boseman as the Black Panther anymore, we can see the effect of his role on the world. Because until that Black Panther movie, it was hard for people to see an African superhero, a Black superhero leading on screen. Now that that movie has come out, that glass ceiling is shattered forever. So I can't wait to see what they do with all of the other characters from Wakanda in the next movie. Maybe Shuri will become queen. Maybe Killmonger will come back and become king. Who knows what's going to happen? But the great thing is that this movie is moving in the exact same direction we went with in Black Panther Tales of Wakanda. We're not just focusing on T'Challa, we're focusing on all of these different characters that come from the world of Wakanda. So if you want to get a heads up on what might be some of the main characters in that next Black Panther movie, pick up Black Panther Tales of Wakanda. I'm not going to tell you, but you know, there might be some of those characters in that book right now.
You know what? I really couldn't have said it better myself, and you're saying it 10,000 times better. And that is absolutely right. And what a beautiful place to close out on. So, as Jesse says, if you're a fan of the Black Panther universe, if Wakanda is meaningful to you in any way, shape, or form, you have to pick this anthology up, which you can pre-order from the links attached to this interview with Jesse. Jesse, thanks so much for joining us at Forbidden Planet TV and taking us through Black Panther Tales of Wakanda, which I can't wait to read.
Well, I really appreciate being here, and I want to remind everyone that you can pre-order Black Panther Tales of Wakanda right now from the links you see on screen. We can't wait to see what you think about these tales of Wakanda. Keep in mind that we also want to know what you think. So of course, you know, all of the authors, you can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter under @JesseJHolland. When you get your copy of Black Panther Tales of Wakanda, tell me what you think. I'm hoping you're going to love it as much as I did.
And you heard the man, and I'm sure you will. So on that note, Jesse, thank you so much for joining me today. It's a pleasure to see you, and I look forward to catching up again soon.
Andrew, thank you so much for having me. I love forbiddenplanet.com. Anytime you want to talk again, you know, I'm always down to talk about Black Panther and the world of comics.
And I am always down to talk about Black Panther and the world of comics with you. So that will happen for sure. And this, by the way, is the first in a series of interviews that we're running on the road up to the publication of Black Panther Tales of Wakanda. And in between now and the publication date, we are going to be speaking to some of Jesse's authors. Can't wait for that either. Great to see you, man. You take care of yourself.
Thank you so much.
If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.